Hi friends! Today I'm out in my yard because today is all about hummingbirds. Today's book is The Amazing Hummingbird Story of Red Rufous. It's by Craig and Joy Johnson. And I also have, right out here, I have my hummingbird feeder that I made. I got the spout. It's just off of Amazon and found a bottle and put some hummingbird food in it, and we're just waiting for the hummingbirds to come and sip off of it. And they also enjoy checking out the money plant that's back here too. But to our book today. So The Amazing Hummingbird Story of Red Rufous by Craig and Joy Johnson. On a forest on Whidbey Island, shared by tall evergreen trees, a mother Rufous hummingbird sat quietly on her nest, keeping 2 tiny eggs warm in the cool air of spring. Using moss and plant fibers, she had created the nest, firmly securing it to a spindly Oregon grape stalk with spider webs. The inside of the nest, only 1 inch across, was lined with fluff from nearby cattails. Sprigs of lichen decorated the outside of the leaves above, and the leaves above served as an umbrella to keep rain off the mother and eggs. Mom sat patiently on her eggs for 16 days, waiting until they were ready to hatch. She left the nest only to eat and was never gone very long. So there she is on her nest, and then there's her little eggs right there. About 2 weeks after Red and his sister Rosie hatched, their feathers had come in and the 2 birds looked very similar. That would change in time. These birds were always hungry, so Mom made a lot of trips to catch small insects and gather nectar from flowers to feed them. In between meals, the young birds would sometimes flutter their wings on the edge of the nest, getting ready to fly. Soon, Red and Rosie were out of the nest and flying. Mom still fed them while teaching what they needed to know for survival. So there they are, Red and Rosie. And there's the mama is feeding the babies. When Red and Rosie were able to care for themselves, Mom began her journey to the mountains, then far south to Mexico. They would make the same trip later that summer. Red and Rosie separately explored and learned about the woods around them, growing stronger each day. Red discovered Jojo, a young black-headed grosbeak who was clinging to the side of a fir tree. Jojo's father was perched nearby, looking out for him. The grosbeaks would also fly south near the end of summer. Before long, Red knew it was time to begin his difficult journey away from the forest in which he was born. So there they are. There's the grosbeaks, Jojo and Red. And there's a dragonfly right there. Flying east in the foothills of the mountains, Red got soaked in a rainstorm that lasted for 2 days. Huddled under some leaves, he tried to stay warm and hide from a huge, great horned owl he could see perched in the distance. So there's the great horned owl right there. And there's Red hiding from him. When the storm finally ended, Red flew to the mountains, where he found colorful wildflowers and swarms of insects. Competition was tough in the alpine meadows, as many hummingbirds were trying to eat enough to gain weight before making the long, long trip south. When Red's body weighed about as much as 2 pennies, he would continue the migration, just like all the other Rufous hummingbirds. 2 pennies, that's how much that little bird weighs. You hold 2 pennies and then you can see how much a little hummingbird weighs. There he is. Oh, here he is in the field right here, eating off of the nectar in the flowers. As Red moved southward, he stopped at many places to rest and eat. It got much warmer and drier than it had been in the Pacific Northwest forest or the mountains. Plants like cactus and even buildings he saw looked quite different. With his wing with his wings beating about 40 times per second, he was like a mini rocket screaming through the air. Red was on a mission to get to Mexico. There he is. There's the buildings near Mexico and the cactus he saw. At last, Red reached southern Mexico. He saw lush plants with endless flowers and many new types of birds. An older male Rufous hummingbird with bright red-orange feathers let him know that this flower patch was his territory, and Red must find another one. Soon Red would also have a place to defend and call home. So there's all the colorful birds there. In a short time, Red grew bright red-orange feathers. He was so happy he flew around, showing many of the neighboring birds. To his great surprise, there on a branch he spotted his sister Rosie. They had not seen each other since they left the forest. Now she also had her adult feathers. Later, Red and Rosie perched near each other at sunset as palm trees softly swayed in the breeze. There they are, Red and Rosie, hanging out again. As daylight hours increased, Red and all the other Rufous hummingbirds knew it was time to return north. For this springtime trip, they would fly up the coast rather than the mountain route they took when flying south to Mexico. So here's a map, and it shows where first they went down to Mexico over the mountains there. That's the dotted line. And then the straight line there is when they flew back to Washington, and they went along the coast, along the ocean there. And here's some fun facts about hummingbirds. It says Rufous hummingbirds fly about 3,000 miles each fall and spring, making the longest migration of any bird for their size. Some even fly as far north as Alaska. That's way up here. So some of them make the trip all the way up there. Popular folklore tells of hummingbirds riding on the backs of swans or geese to make such an extreme flight. But these little birds actually fly the entire way on their own power. If it gets very cold at night, hummingbirds can go into a deep sleep called torpor. By reducing their body temperature and heart rate, they conserve precious energy like a mini hibernation. Hummingbirds' neck feathers, or gorget, plus some head and body feathers, are iridescent, changing color depending upon what angle the light is hitting them. Males are the most brightly colored. That's fun, huh? So, flying high like an airplane in the sky, Red saw gulls, shorebirds, and pigeon guillemots as he headed north along the coast. Rocky cliffs and sandy beaches stretched out below him with huge waves crashing against the shore. Sometimes passing through clouds or fog and struggling against strong winds, Red steadily pushed onward. So there he is. He's way up like an airplane. You can see him. You can see that. It's so awesome. Such pretty pictures. And then these are pictures of some of the gulls that he saw. So, I don't know if you recognize that. A little hummingbird feeder. It looks a little bit different than mine, but it's still, hummingbird feeders come in all different shapes and sizes. So, when flying over big cities, Red still had to stop and eat. Luckily, friendly people put up hummingbird feeders, but he often had to sneak past the larger Anna's hummingbird that lived there year-round and guarded the nectar. So there's the pictures. I'm flying over. Red was getting closer to his destination. Feeling feisty, he did some circus-like zipping and darting around. By now he was very skilled at acrobats and could quickly fly up, down, sideways, backwards, and even upside down. These abilities would help him when defending a territory. Eager to be back on Whidbey Island, showing off his new feathers and flying tricks, Red rested and refueled, then pressed on. So there he is. There's a little barn. He's at a farm. There's Mount Rainier. So he's on Whidbey Island there. Finally, he was back at his birthplace. There he saw a female hummingbird collecting fluff from a cattail for her nest. Then Red spotted Jojo, the black-headed grosbeak, who had also returned from Mexico with new adult feathers. Many things had changed since last year. It was sure to be a summer filled with more exciting adventures. So there he is in the woods. And there he is with his friend Jojo, the grosbeak. And there he says, "Catch you later." And that's the end. So thanks for joining us, friends. I hope that you get to be outside and enjoy some of the sunshine and look for hummingbirds near your house or in your neighborhood. So bye guys. See you next week.